It's time for the final insult. Naked Gun 33 1/3 is generally considered the weakest of the original films. But that doesn't mean there's no laughs to be found. From the sperm bank to the Academy Awards, join us as we discuss Frank Drebin's Last Hurrah. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I get that all the time. The underwear ads, they played everywhere.
That's what you went with. I really thought you were going to go with, like a blind man in an orgy, I'm going to have to feel this out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a possibility, but I was thinking too much of a non sequitur, and this one plays into you saying my name, so...
Okay.
More clever pick.
Yes, we're here today to talk about the Naked Gun 33 1/3, the final insult, which is the third Naked Gun movie, just to be clear, just in case you didn't understand the numbering system of this franchise. So that is what we're here today. This was the last one, really, until this new reboot that's coming out that we'll be doing next week. This was, for 30 years, the final entry in the franchise, and, well, barring some searching for The Undertaker during SummerSlam 1994, but that's a whole thing that I won't
I'm sure that's officially recognized as part of the series and not just this weird little offshoot.
I mean, yeah, they hired Leslie Nielsen to do all these skits where he's trying to find a missing wrestler, and it's all in Naked Gun style, like comedy and whatnot. If you happen to be a fan of this franchise and were watching wrestling at that time, it was a nice little marriage made in heaven. But regardless, we're here today to talk about the third Naked Gun movie, and we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. I mean, spoilers are kind of weird for a movie like this, like we've said for the last two. But hey, we'll do our best. And if you are enjoying the show on YouTube, please do hit the like button on YouTube. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support all the content and get bonus stuff over at Patreon or via YouTube membership. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yes, this came out in 1994. And I was very curious as to the timeline of a couple of things. I actually missed half the opening titles because I was Googling, when did the OJ stuff happen? Like, did he star in this after that? He did not. This movie came out... I mean, even if this movie had been released after, he'd have shot this first, but it did come out earlier. This came out in, like, March of 1994, and then all of the famous stuff happened a few months later. So this was right before all that happened.
I looked that up when we got done the first movie. I was like, okay, are we going to have this weird period when the season's over where we got to, like, talk about, oh God, why did they release this 6 months after the OJ trial or something like that? But no, they got lucky, and as much as they can have a alleged murderer in their cast and still be lucky.
I mean, yeah, it's lucky from the perspective as if this movie had been scheduled to come out like a month after like his, whole arrest and chase and all that stuff. It might have been like, oh, can we put this out? Or do we have to edit him out of the movie? Do we have to do this? Do we have to do that? This is like is about as close as it could have been, right? It could have been maybe 2 months later and been like right before, but other than that, this would have like finished its theater run in advance of that happening. So it's like, okay, you're in the clear. You don't have to pull anything as a result. The home video release is going to feel a bit weird, but that's like, the movie's already out at that point, so it doesn't matter as much. So
I'm hoping that it wasn't the case, but I can't help but feel like as soon as OJ hit the headlines, somebody in the advertising department was just like, should we do a re-release? Should we get that back into theaters? OJ's last film?
I mean, they should have had OJ's mugshot be the cover for the video, the VHS when it came out.
That is the final insult.
So yes, OJ allegedly murdered his wife and wife's friend, and I say allegedly because technically he was, I don't even know, he was acquitted, if that's the right word, but he got away with it. If he did it.
Yes. Yeah. That's the name of the book.
Yeah,
if I did it. And then they published the book and made the if really itty bitty tiny.
And then I was like, what age is he now? And then found out he died last year. I was like, oh, okay, so he just died relatively recently. Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's your OJ section. Hope you enjoyed it, everyone. So yes, Now, I remembered this being the weakest of the three, of not liking it as much as the other two for whatever reason, and I was curious to see if I was still going to feel that way. I assume, like the second one, you hadn't seen much of this before?
Yeah. I think there are exactly 2 sequences in this that have been gift to all hell and back, and I recognize those, but everything else is a complete new mystery to me. What? Pete, what are you... So, for audio listeners, Pete just slapped his forehead, but I don't know why. What could that be in reference to?
I've got a sneaking suspicion that one of the gifs that you've seen are an entire audience of people slapping their foreheads.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Well, now you have context for it, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
So, yes. Yeah, this movie starts off with Frank. He's now married. He's retired. Jane's somehow a lawyer, despite the fact that being a profession it takes a lot of effort and time to get into. It doesn't tend to be something you do when you're already in your late 40s or whatever age she is. But hey, whatever.
Well, what was her profession in the first movie? Because she did seem at least like a little bit like clerk-wise, like she knew her way around some stuff.
I think she was just an assistant, but
just an assistant. All right, fair enough.
I guess that's open for interpretation of her skill set, but anyway, he gets asked to check out some stuff by Ed and Nordberg, who want him to help out with the case. And that causes a rift in the marriage, and there's a whole undercover plot where he tries to like befriend a criminal who might be trying to blow something up, played by Fred Ward, who most people probably know from Tremors, I would guess. Plus Anna Nicole Smith, just 1 year before her classic turn in Skyscraper, she's in The Naked Gun.
Talk about cashing in right before they made it big. Jeez.
I mean, this movie's the only reason why I knew who she was. Like, well, basically until I saw Skyscraper. I don't think I'd seen her in anything else between those two movies.
Nah, fair enough. She was, socialite and adult channel famous.
I don't know she did that. What can I say? I don't pay attention to socialites. It's, nor now or when I was a child. So, fair enough.
You're not on that side of what was previously known as Twitter, keeping track of all that stuff?
No, I was not. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I mean, that's the basic gist of it. We'll get into more specific things later once we're in spoilers. But, David, what did you think of Naked Gun 33 and a Third, The Final Insult?
I get what you're saying. I don't want it to be like I'm overly harsh on this because I don't think it deserves that, but I get where you're coming at, where it seems like it's the weakest one. I think for me, to put it into a baseball metaphor, is that the first movie had like 1,000 up to bats and 1,000 home runs, or maybe like 950 home runs. Like every time it came up, it almost always hit it out of the park, but it came up a lot. The second one, it came up a little bit less, maybe like 800, and it hit it out of the park, I don't know, half of that. Like it wasn't too frequently. This one, I feel like it came up to bat significantly fewer times. Like if Naked Gun 1 was 1,000, this one was like 200. But I think that of the times that it comes up to bat, it hits it out of the park more frequently than 2 did. I think the jokes are landing more, but there's a lot less of them. And that's honestly, I think that's kind of worse in a way, because I think with Naked Gun, what I came to expect is that every sequence would just be chock full of just little gags and tiny little things, and maybe not all of them were going to land. I'm fine with less of them landing, but they were constantly throwing something at you. This one, I feel like it goes for a good minute, 2 minutes sometimes before it really does anything that's an actual joke. Sometimes it does just a little eye waggle or something that's like vaguely funny, but it's nowhere near to the extent that the first 2 were. So it's not a bad movie. The jokes are landing, but it's just so out of place with the rest of the franchise, with how much it was actually more story focused than joke, just delivery vehicle.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird mix in the I think in some ways the plot is stronger, particularly in the back half when there's like more of a clear focus. And I said in the last one that the second movie kind of missed having a big place for a finale, and I think this movie does have that, right? It has the Academy Awards as this sort of playground for the final stuff to play out, and I think most of that's good. That said, though, one of the critiques we had a little bit into is that it was veering a little bit more into like contemporary references, and this one definitely goes further with that, and there's like probably some that I don't even get that just fly over my head because I was 5 when this came out. But there's stuff here, like, there's a Jurassic Park joke, and Jurassic Park was a year old when this came out, and that is very much in that scary movie territory of, oh, the thing that was just famous, we're going to make a joke on it. And frankly, the joke's not that funny. Like, it's one of the worst jokes in the movie, honestly. So, I you know, it's full of those things. But I do think that there is gags that work, right? Because I kind of agree. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's much closer to that middle line than the second one, and certainly the first one was. So, like, I do look at this one more negatively. But there's still moments, there's still bright spots here or there, there's still things. But there's definitely also stuff that I'm kind of, you know, I don't think works, or I think I'm sick of. Like, I have to say in this one, especially after the second, where I think most of it worked in the second one, to be fair, but I am so sick to death in this movie of Frank and Jane's relationship having problems. Like, I'm just like, I get that it's all playing for laughs. It's not important. We don't have to take it seriously. But even in that capacity, I'm just still kind of like, but like, could we not have done something else than, you promised me you wouldn't be a cop? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I just don't care.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think that there was a way that they could have fleshed it out and made it not so much they have problems in their relationship as the focus of it, but like, just make it things that normal people have to go through. I know that sounds like it's kind of worse for a screwball comedy, but you know, the last one was this whole thing where they just said, oh, she had nerves, and like, oh, she didn't like him being a cop or whatever. But this one, I don't know, they hint at it being that she wants to have kids, and to some extent he doesn't, but also other numerous factors as well. I feel like if they had just really leaned into that rather than just this, oh, you promised not to be a cop and therefore we're just redoing the second movie again, that could have been a little bit better for the story.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think there's good jokes in here. There is, and they're sprinkled throughout. It's not like it's all front or back loaded or anything like that. But I agree that it does feel like there's longer gaps, and there's maybe more duds, and there's some more awkward references. Like the fact that at one point Jane's with their friend, like they're clearly making a reference to Thelma and Louise with the way they're dressed and they're in a car, and it doesn't even like it doesn't really have a payoff or anything that they do with it. It's just, hey, they're like Thelma and Louise. That's what this looks like.
I was waiting for the friend to come back and be like the Deus Ex Machina for the third act, because they like set her up that she was going to be doing something, and then she's just gone.
Yep. So, you know, I think there's positives, there's negatives. I still stand by what I said, though. I do think this is the weakest one, even though I think there's a couple of specific things that are arguably better than 2. I think overall, though, I do think this is the weakest one still. I think it's the one where there are just like scenes or moments where I do actually kind of stop paying attention because it's not keeping me engaged. It's not keeping me engaged with jokes, and obviously it's a Naked Gun movie, so it's not like the plot is engaging in like a sort of traditional sense, you know? So you find yourself kind of zoning out at certain scenes or certain moments where I'm just kind of like waiting for the, you know, oh, they're dancing and stuff here. I'm just kind of like almost not paying attention till the dancing's over because I'm just not that entertained by it. So just stuff like that.
No, yeah, I agree. I had, I wouldn't say very long sequences, but there were definitely times where I realized that I needed to rewind because I wasn't watching the screen, and I just, like, it would chime in my mind, oh, this is Naked Gun. I'm probably missing a lot of visual gags as that's happening. And then I rewind and I watch the screen, and I didn't. Nothing was happening there.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You go back to the first movie, and it's such a tight film where no matter what's going on, even if it's something that on paper sounds like it's not interesting, there's so many little gags happening whilst they're playing baseball, or whilst they're whatever. Like to pick any moment in the movie, and there'll be something
just
going
walking
on.
down a hallway.
Yeah.
Like any sort of scene is just like, look at all the stuff going on in the background.
And it is notable this movie has a different director than the first two, so we have even less of the people involved that made it what it was in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah, Peter Segal directed this. Went on to do some Adam Sandler movies, did Tommy Boy, which I know obviously. So some of these do have some like following, like there's some fans of some of these movies, but he's also done a lot of like sort of duds as well, like a lot of like 5 and 6s out of 10s. He did Get Smart, for example, starring Steve Carell, which I don't hear anyone ever talk about because it's just kind of one of those movies that came out and then it played on cable a bunch of times, then no one remembers it exists.
I'm going to be remiss if I don't say that my fiance actually does really like that movie, like to the point of she showed it to me for the first time. But yeah, in watching it, I'm like, yeah, it's fine, it's okay.
I suspect that is a very specific thing, though. That is like it came out in a very specific window in her childhood where there's just a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in it. Whereas, I don't know what the equivalent would be for me, but I'm sure there's some. Like, I'm sure there's some stuff from the mid-90s where, like, I would not even give a crap about this if I saw it for the first time today. But because I saw it when I was, like, 7, it's, like, hitting some high notes for me.
Yeah, I will say, in his directorial filmography here, there's back-to-back 50 First Dates and The Longest Yard, both Adam Sandler vehicles. But honestly, I think both those are pretty okay. They're not standout amazing films, but I think that they were done fairly competently, all things considered. The problem being is that neither of those are comedies. Both of those have comedic beats, but for the most part are more of the more serious type of Adam Sandler films rather than something like Anger Management or whatnot.
Well, I've not seen Longest Yard, so I can't speak to that one. 50 First Dates is definitely rom-com, though. Like, it's like when you say the serious Adam Sandler movies, you're talking about Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems. You're not talking about 50 First Dates.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that level. I guess there's like 3 tiers of Adam Sandler. There's the stuff he does with like Kevin James and whatnot. Then there's 50 First Dates and Longest Yard, and then there's Uncut Gems. Because I agree there is rom-com elements, but I don't view that as the full fart joke comedy that Adam Sandler usually puts out.
Well, it's a different type of comedy, but would you say The Wedding Singer's not a comedy? Because it absolutely is.
No, I would say it was. I put that in the same. I put that in that same category as Longest Yard and 50 First Dates.
Yes, it's a comedy, so those are still comedies.
Yeah, again, in my mind, there's a difference between comedy and Adam Sandler comedy. And the Adam Sandler comedy is the fart joke,
No.
Jack and Jill.
What you're saying here, the distinction you're making is the ones that might be enjoyed because they might be good, and then the ones that are just shit. That's what you're saying here. Not you're not distinguishing between comedy and not comedy. You're distinguishing between maybe good and terrible.
But like for most people, for most actors and like creative types, there's a spectrum. There is a gradient amongst those. I feel like for Adam Sandler, there is a clearly defined line, and there is stuff above that line and below that line, and there is nothing straddling it.
I mean, that's a fair statement. Yeah, he's got 2 or 3 decent comedies, and then a lot of shite, and then he's got like Uncut Gems, which is just like shockingly good, and it's like okay, whatever. Anyway, to get back to the movie at hand here. It kind of felt like some of the supporting cast didn't get as much to do in this one. It felt like George Kennedy and OJ, perhaps luckily in some ways, weren't around for large chunks of the movie. They kind of just disappear into the background whilst the plot's going on, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But given that George Kennedy was one of the standouts of the last one, feels a little bit of a shame.
Yeah, there was a point in here where Norberg's like kind of just like trying to get involved in the plot, and of course that's OJ's character, and then George Kennedy just gives him a puzzle set, I think, and says go build this in the corner, and then just like kicks him out, and I'm like, I feel like that's the movie more so than the character of George Kennedy that's doing that, and it's doing it to multiple characters here.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a weird issue, and it's a shame because there is like moments of like inspired comedy or whatever. Because the entire opening sequence, which I won't get into yet, but it is a parody of a movie. It's a parody of a scene from The Untouchables, I believe. But it's so elaborate in its idea that it doesn't really matter if you've seen that movie or not. The jokes kind of come from lots of other places. Like, there's a lot of jokes in there beyond just the setup of like, oh, we're at a train station on the stairs kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then there's other stuff where they're just, because I think some of the stuff that I liked about the Academy Awards at the end, like the Jurassic Park jokes, really really lame and very much of that bad scary movie caliber. But the ones that worked for me, and this goes back to what made the first movie work for me, is when it's not making fun of a specific film, it's making fun of genre tropes and like movies in general and stuff that always pops up. So when they're like announcing like, oh, best actress nominations, and they're doing little descriptions of what the movies are, and they're all fake movies. It's like, oh, one woman's, struggle to overcome a dead cat set in the backdrop of the Hindenburg disaster. That made me laugh, because that's like, okay, it's like, yeah, you're kind of mocking the type of like Oscar bait that comes out. One woman's turmoil to overcome a yeast infection, and it's like, these are
set.
Gags.
I believe that one was set against the 1991 Dodgers season or something like that. Like, it's something absolutely off the wall. And no, I agree with you. I think that that's something that's clever. It's something that's making fun of a trope that we all just kind of get without it being too specifically pointing fun and saying like, oh, that's Jurassic Park, or oh, that's whatever. To counterpoint that, I think that something that's dating this movie a lot is that it is relying heavily during the Academy Awards section on a couple of specific actors and
those people
using them.
Yeah.
And like for James Earl Jones presenting, that works because everyone knows James Earl Jones. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then they bring up like Raquel Welch, and I'm like, she's not as big of a star nowadays. And I'm wondering how many people really know Raquel Welch.
Yeah, but that'll probably be true of James Earl Jones eventually.
Oh, eventually, yeah. It's going to date it no matter what. But like, some people fall off a lot quicker than otherwise. I mean, there's an extended point here for Phil Donahue, and I've heard the name, but I couldn't tell you what he looked like.
Oh, I mean, neither. I think, to be fair to it, though, I don't think it matters if you know who any of these people are. Like they happen to be real people, right? And at one point they cut to Sharon Doherty in the crowd, and it's like, hey, here's Sharon Doherty. But if these were all just made up characters, right? They weren't real actors. Would it actually make any of the jokes not work? I don't think it actually would affect any of it, really, would it? Maybe there's one or two specific things that because that's the thing. If there is any specific references to who these people actually are, I didn't get them because I don't know who most of these people are.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There's one bit of someone doing like a gymnast routine down the line, and I thought, oh, is that person a gymnast? But then I thought, well, maybe the joke is just they're really excited to go down and get their awards. So it could have worked in both senses, but I wasn't sure at that point.
Yeah, but if you're not... That's the thing, though. You're only thinking about it because you're like, oh, is this like a reference that I'm not getting? Or is the joke just, oh, this is mocking how people come down to get their awards? And it would just be funny. Because this definitely feels in line for a Naked Gun joke, that someone's just doing backflips on the way to the stage. You know?
No, yeah, you're right. I guess that is kind of the issue of when you set it at something as vague as the baseball game or something like that. Until you get to the Reggie Jackson part, I didn't really feel like any specific person was a specific person. I didn't think they were making reference to any team. They were just saying, oh, here's baseball as a whole tropes. Whereas this one, because they were pulling out specific names of actors, I was expecting a lot more reference humor than probably was actually there.
Yeah, to be fair, though, with the Reggie Jackson stuff, I didn't know who that was. I didn't know that was a real baseball player until we looked it up as we were talking about it, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the only thing that gives away that he was a real person is the slow zoom up to his face. It felt like it was trying to reveal, like, no, this is a guy that you're going to recognize.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we probably have to just say spoilers. We're kind of starting to talk about jokes now anyway, so just before we get any further, spoiler warning for Naked Gun 33 1/3. And we'll get into everything here. So, yeah, the opening is a dream sequence. It's the train station, the stairs. They're waiting for some criminal. I mean, in the Untouchables, I think it's Al Capone, but like here, who cares? It's a gangster. But the joke, the main joke, is that there's a bunch of like mothers with babies who are trying to take their carriages and whatnot up the stairs, and Frank can't help. Even though they're very close to this bad guy showing up, he has to go and help this woman take the baby up the stairs, and he makes OJ go do it. And then at the top of the stairs, Ed starts helping someone. And then when the bad guys show up and the shooting starts, they all just let go of the babies, and they all just start going down the stairs. And I guess like the most direct reference they've ever made to OJ being a football player comes up here, because OJ starts catching babies in the background as Frank's shooting, and he's doing like dance, like celebration dances, and it's almost like he's about to do a touchdown with the baby until the mum comes in and like takes the baby away. And I'm like, okay, all right, that's kind of fun. Admittedly, it kind of hinges on me knowing that he used to play football, and that's all I really know about it. But you know,
I think as long as you're familiar with the concept of a touchdown dance, it wouldn't matter that he played football. It's just that you recognize what he's about to do.
Yeah, but I will make that very clear, though, that I think for a lot of non-Americans, that actually might be an ask.
Oh, yeah. Almost certainly, but
like
you don't make up majority of the gross. We don't care.
The only reason why I know this stuff is because I've seen it in movies. Like, movies are the only reason why I know even some of the rules of some of the American sports. So,
yeah.
I'm just putting that out there. But anyway, it's mostly a funny bit. They have like different people come out of the top of the stairs. Disgruntled postal workers with machine guns at one point.
Yeah, it's in order. It's the president, who at this point is Bill Clinton. Then it's the Pope.
Yeah, they got to look alike.
And then the Pope. There's a terrorist who's trying to bomb him coming out afterwards. That Frank stops him, and then it's a bunch of disgruntled postal workers with machine guns that are just attacking everybody in sight, which felt really. I don't know when the postal thing happened, but it felt really topical. It felt like they were really going for a stinger there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I had heard the term "going postal" for years before I knew there was an incident with a postal worker that inspired that phrase. So this is all kind of lost on me.
Going postal. It was 1986 and onwards, so it'd been around for a little bit.
It was before the first movie, so they waited at least to the third one before they went to the well.
True. Oh, God. Sorry, I just clicked on list of postal killings on Wikipedia.
Oh, jeez.
And, like, every single country has, like, one or two, and then you hit the United States. Dear God.
I think most types of killings are like that, though, to be fair.
Yeah. We're not great with that.
It's like, if you look up, like, you know, serial killers, you're like, oh, yeah, a couple in this one, a couple there. You get to the US, and it's like, oh, shit, there's a whole party going on here.
Yep. We have the most Super Bowl wins, though, so that's nice.
Do I have to point out the logistical problem with what you just said?
All right. Well, we've won the most World Series in baseball. So.
Yes. Both those events are primarily nothing but American teams.
What? No.
Oh, dear. Anyway, so yeah, it's all opening. Frank wakes up from the nightmare because, like, he's like, I can't save people because I'm not a cop anymore. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. Honestly, one of my favorite running gags throughout this entire franchise, and it does come up a little bit later, is this idea that he will be depressed if he can't shoot people. Right? It's like his favorite thing about being a cop, and there's like a flashback kind of early on to when he was retiring. And he's like, well, the next time I have to shoot someone, it'll be in my own home, and hopefully it's an intruder and not one of my in-laws like the bachelor party. And I'm like, this is just such a good running gag. Is this idea that he's just desperate to shoot people? I don't know. It's funny to me.
Yeah, I think one of the later lines, I think it's George Kennedy, who says something like, yeah, it's been 6 months since you got to shoot someone. And he's like, yeah, it's funny how you missed the little things.
Yeah. So yeah, it sets up the main plot. We see the prison. Pap Schmear's back. He's there to talk to the villain, Fred Ward's character, Rocco.
Yeah, so you've been selling this literally for the past two movies of like, oh yeah, well, Pap Schmear's coming back for this one. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's nice that they're giving that small tertiary character from the first movie a real standout role in this one. And then he's in it for all of collectively like a minute and a half.
Did I ever say he became a main character? Did I ever say he wasn't going to have a similar role to the first one?
But the way you phrased it, I expected him to be the main villain. I expected to be like a blast from Frank's past. Here he is again, Papschmear.
No. I just meant he was back. I thought he was in all three. I was surprised he didn't show up in the second one. So I guess it was like it was a return. It was a coming home for Papschmear. And Naked Gun 33.
Someone post a comment to check the transcript of this video that YouTube auto generates, because I want to see what they do with that name.
Excellent question. So yeah, basically this Fred Ward character Rocco has been orchestrating bombings of various things, and he wants to break out of prison and get his biggest target, which we later find out is the Oscars. So it just kind of sets up that. But the scene ends with him saying, find one man who can stop me. Smash cut to Frank struggling to get the shopping trolley out of the trolleys. So they're all connected, and he's trying to get it away, and he's got a blowtorch getting out. It's like, okay, that's a funny gag. I was kind of like hopeful for a minute, because I was like, okay, Frank in a domestic scenario where he's getting groceries, he's cleaning the house, in the same way that we felt at the end of the first movie, going to a baseball stadium opened up a whole new avenue of jokes. I was thinking here for a minute, having not remembered really what a lot of the next part of the movie was going to be, I was like, oh, this might be quite good before he gets back on a case again, to like just do a lot of different types of jokes, because he's in all these domestic scenarios. And they do a little bit of it, but as we were saying earlier, because the jokes aren't as like densely packed into every scene, there's not actually as much as you could really have done here. Like there's so much like left on the table for jokes. Especially since one of the jokes is just kind of a repeat of he's touching the fruit and he ends up touching a boob, right? It's basically just a repeat of the joke from the statues from the first film. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that's all right, but like, I don't know. I thought there could have been more of like him being the house husband, and more to play with that. But almost immediately, the very next scene is like, oh, we're at therapy as a couple, and we're doing jokes about his impotence and whatnot.
Yeah. No, there's a sequence just very shortly ahead here where Ed and OJ come back and say, hey, we need you for the Force again. And it feels like that scene should be super densely packed with, hey, look at all the stuff that he's been doing while being stuck here at home and the wife is out working. And like, they could have layered in all this extra stuff. And there is a couple things. He's watching soap operas, he's ironing a shirt, he's wearing fuzzy slippers, but like for what ends up being a good like 4 or 5 minute long scene, there's maybe like 6 or 7 jokes. It really does not play on the idea of him being a house husband, and then after that he's out, so it's not even anything they really spend too much time on.
Yeah, he's made cupcakes, and he insists they try them, and that's the extent of the biggest joke, really, to be honest.
Yeah, and are they disgusting to the point of making them vomit? Probably, but they barely play it up.
Yeah, I did like the little flashback here, because when they bring up the name of Tanya, which is Anne Nicole Smith's character, he's like, oh yeah, I think we ran into her in the 70s, so they do a flashback to the 70s. And it's like they're all in their 70s outfits and haircuts, and like I was like, okay, this is kind of funny seeing them and then the 70s gear and saying things like daddy-o and doing like weird handshakes and all the rest of it. Like I'm like, okay, there's stuff here. Like if anything, I'm like, yeah, this is like a mine that you could go into for even more jokes. Is like do like an old case from the 70s so we can get a bunch of flashbacks or from there. Do a flashback from something maybe in the middle of the 80s that you missed in terms of like, not so much like a specific event, but just like, like a cultural thing that was around for a while. But I don't know. I was like, again, maybe there was like a missed opportunity to do more with it, but at least there was a good visual gag and how they were all dressed and how all their haircuts were like and all the rest of it.
Yeah, there were 2 things I was hoping out of that. One was, like you were saying, I kind of wanted them to maybe move through eras, and even like you could make a joke of getting into the 90s and they pull on like some early 90s stuff, despite the fact that Police Squad was already a thing by then, so we knew what they looked like in the 90s. The other part of it is during this sequence here, Tanya is played by Anna Nicole Smith. They say that this is the 70s, so I was expecting at some point for them to make a joke about, wow, you haven't changed at all in like 20 years. You look exactly, and it's just never referenced, never brought up.
Yeah, technically she should be like 8 or something in this like
Right.
time frame that the movie's set in here. But nah, they never do any jokes with that. So fair enough, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole ton to say about some of the early stuff. Like, you know, Jane's a lawyer, and it plays up this idea that she's thinking about having a kid, and like every single person in court's got a child with them to remind her, and that's the gag. And like, this is like a weird case where I don't think it's that funny. I get it from like a narrative purpose. Like, okay, I get it. She's thinking about having a kid, and everything's this cruel reminder that she doesn't have one yet. But is any of the stuff with all these babies just like vomiting up or like hitting their little toy hammers or whatever, is it actually that funny? I don't know if I think it is.
Yeah, it's honestly, there's like one baby throwing up and then the toy hammer thing, and honestly, I can't think of another joke. Like the joke is there are babies around, and it's just not really landing for me. I think that it strikes me as the sort of thing that is hilarious to like a new parent, like someone who actually has the kids, and it's just like, yeah, that's relatable. But for us, especially looking in on this, we're like, okay, there's a bunch of babies. That's hilarious.
I was just waiting for like some other joke, and I think maybe like with the way they were bantering about whatever the case was, there was probably some jokes in there, but nothing was really catching my ear or making me, you know.
I mean, I didn't catch it. I was listening to the case stuff because I thought there'd be a joke, and it's talking about this guy who hasn't paid alimony, but like, she recognizes the babies around the courtroom so much that it basically brings all of that dialogue to a standstill. Like, it doesn't actually forward anything with the case, and then the scene just ends.
Yeah, but it goes on like longer. Like, this would all be fine if it was like a 15 to 20 second scene where it was just, here's what she's doing now, joke that there's babies everywhere. Isn't that funny? Cut away to a new scene. But because it keeps going for like a good like 90 seconds to 2 minutes or however long the scene lasts, like, you're expecting something else, like some other joke that plays on the fact that there's a bunch of kids here.
I was honestly, my initial expectation when I saw that, okay, we're starting to litter around babies, is that we cut to like the bailiff or we cut to the stenographer and it ends up being a baby that's just like smashing on the keyboard or is dressed up like that. Like, it's just taking it to that 11th level, but this one stays at a comfortable 5 the entire way through.
Yeah, so I don't really have much to say about that. So the whole setup is that their psychiatrist, who is the psychiatrist from Terminator 1 and 2, Earl Bowen, he gives them some advice to try and spice up the bedroom so they can have sex, because apparently Frank's had some trouble performing. And the implication later on, of course, is that he's not the man that he was because he's not a cop, so he can't get it up. Like, that's the implication. Which I guess feeds into the sperm bank scene as well, because it's like, oh, he's on a case again, so all of a sudden he's ready to go. But we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that in a second, right? So,
all right.
So when the others come over and say, hey, can you like go and check out this clinic that Tanya works at to see if we can find out where she lives to get a lead in the case, he reluctantly agrees. But this is also the day that he's supposed to be making dinner, because that night him and Jane are going to have their big like romantic evening together. So that plays into this as well. So he goes to the clinic thinking it's just like a regular medical clinic, and pretends that he's got like an arm injury to get in, but he doesn't realize that it's a sperm clinic. So probably the first time in the movie I really liked a joke was the conversation he had with the nurse before he goes in the door when he doesn't realize where he is yet, because she's basically asking a question of like, okay, so what seems to be the problem? And he's like, well, my uncle comes over and we throw it around a little bit in the backyard, and I can't keep up with him. Like, he's a machine, and maybe I just yanked it too hard. And he's saying all these things, and it's like, okay, this is kind of funny. This is pretty amusing. And then of course she says, okay, go in there and give me a sample. And he's like, a sample? And she pulls out a cup, and she's like, yeah, a sperm sample. And then he finally kind of realizes where he is. And then I don't think the joke of him being finished in like 5 seconds is that funny, really. It's just kind of whatever. The real joke for me here is kind of the payoff to the fact that it keeps going, and that he then has to, like, to sort of cover the fact that he was looking around, has to go back into another room to give more semen samples, and he seems to be taking a bit longer this time because he's already done it. So the nurse says, oh, would you like a video? And he's like, oh, have you got Dances with Wolves? That was a funny line. Like, him just like suggesting a movie that's a random movie is a funny joke to me. And she hands him some porn.
Yeah, keep going.
Right? And he comes out after the porn with like 6 cups, and he's like, it was very entertaining. And I'm like, okay, that's mildly funny. And then eventually, when Anna Nicole Smith catches him doing stuff, he goes back into a room again, and he's taking so long now because at this point he's produced so much over the course of the last hour that he says, "Hey, I need a hand in here." And the thing that it cuts away on at the end of the scene is that apparently, if someone in the sperm bank asks for help, the dominatrix gets sent in. So we just cut to this dominatrix with a whip, like slashing at the floor and walking down, ready to punish. And then it cuts to the house. And I was like, you know what? The idea that if you're at a sperm bank and you ask for help, they've got a dominatrix to send to the room is a funny gag, right?
Yeah.
So not every joke in this like sperm bank stuff worked for me. That it was kind of hit and miss throughout, but there were jokes throughout where I'm like, okay, you've set up a scenario and you're playing with some of the ideas and tropes of what you can do with someone at a sperm bank.
Mm-hmm. I like this sequence for what it is, and pretty much everything once he goes into the back area and once they reveal it's a sperm bank, pretty much everything was landing for me. There's one section where he's looking for secrets and he starts rifling through files, and they've got stuff on like the Kennedy assassination and the Watergate tapes and stuff like that. I was like, all right, that's it. That's the kind of visual gag I expect. But the bit that was a problem for me is the joke right before they go in, because I thought it was the weakest joke in the movie. Oh, and God. He's filling out paperwork and he's given a fake name or whatever, and the woman behind the counter says, okay, take a number, and he says 6. Well, does it have to be between 1 and 10? I could pick a different one. And I'm just like, okay, that I guess is, I can see how we could deliver that funny. But then they did that thing that I was complaining about in the last movie where the character does the "are you serious" kind of look, and it just goes, it like takes away from the dry humor aspect of it and makes it that this man is now just a bumbling idiot who's just making his way through life, rather than the world itself is strange and unusual and people just take this stuff on the chin. So she reaches over, pulls out a number, and then gives it to him, and then the rest of the scene continues on. But like that reaction where you see her looking like, are we serious right now? Just I was so annoyed by that point, and especially by the fact that multiple scenes before that really weren't paying off for me either. So I was in desperate need for this scene to work by that point.
Yeah, and I think like most of it does work, and I think the aftermath, the direct aftermath of it does work for me, where he gets home and he can barely walk, right? Because he's been like he's used it too much, right? He's in. Right, we've all been there. Right, we've all been there. You can barely walk. You've shot too many bullets, and
what's today? Thursday.
Right, so he's kind of limping out of the house, and he sits down, and he just gets a bottle of champagne that's in front of him, and just pours it down his trousers, and just steam starts coming from his crotch. And I'm like, okay, this is a little silly, obviously. But I still kind of like it as a joke because it's playing off what you just spent the last like 5 minutes building in terms of like humor. And the best part of the joke here is that Jane comes out in a sexy bit of lingerie. Well, supposedly sexy bit of lingerie. It's obviously a very silly bit of lingerie. It's
lit up with neon signs and arrows pointing to the crotch.
But like the joke here is that she's expecting a wild night of passionate sex to hopefully get pregnant. And he's like clearly cannot do that. He is physically unable to fulfill that need today because he's already done it too many times. And I like that. I like that dilemma that it's put him in. They spent time building it up. He's in this situation, and the look of fear in his face, and just some of the little lines that he has, where she's like, "Oh, we're going to have sex all night," and he's like, "All night? Wait, what about we just go and rest in the bathtub for a couple days and first?" Right. Like all the little like lines he has. I almost would have liked a full sequence of him trying to avoid having sex with her. Like she keeps trying to start having sex, and he keeps like finding ways to like dodge it.
and that is the exact problem I have with this movie in a nutshell. Is that I want it to take it up to 11. I want them to keep on running with a joke, but it feels like just as they're about to get there, they just put it back on the shelf and say, okay, we're done with that now. Like I kept on wanting it to build and build and build. We get to the next bit where She takes off his shirt and sees claw marks down his back, implying that the dominatrix did whatever. And he says, I tripped on a rake. And she says, no, you're back on a case, aren't you? And his decide for cover is like, no, I'm not. It's another woman. I'm cheating on you. And she just absolutely doesn't believe it because I guess that Frank Drebin's not that admirable.
Well, that's the joke here, is that any other woman would see those marks in the back and go, wait, these are whip marks. You've been with a woman. But her instinct is like, no, you've been on a case. You're doing detective work. So that's kind of the joke, that he's trying to use what most people would assume has happened. And the funny thing is in his case, it's kind of both, because a woman did do this to him. It's just true, but it was for a case. So it's the worst of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, she does a whole thing where she leaves him. She goes to the bedroom and like comes out, and a second later she's the Flash now apparently. And that's the joke. I'm not critiquing it, but like she comes out and she's already changed her clothes. The cab's already outside. Mm-hmm. And she's like,
as he's standing in the door watching her go, the radio comes on saying like, and this is a request for Frank Drebin. How dare you? And now you're just standing there with the door open, letting the heat out like an idiot.
Yeah, so that kind of does that, and then when he goes back to the station like the next day, basically he wrote down the address of Tanya. He found it, but he misplaced it. We find out later on that Jane has it. So he goes to the station with basically no information, and they basically just go, happens to the best of us, Frank. Let's catch up.
I thought for sure that was, again, going to be the setup for, like, some other thing. But, like, no, they're just genuinely understanding and saying, yeah, whatever, the plot's going to continue regardless.
Yeah, they also show that they put up, like, a plaque of him, or a plaque of, like, his gun, his, like, suit jacket, his like, badge. And you say, oh, yeah, because you're a distinguished member of police squad, you go up here. And the camera pans across, and you see one for Wyatt Earp, and you see one for, was it Roosevelt?
Hoover, I think, was the
Hoover. That's what it was.
One.
Yeah, that was the one that had like it was like the tutu or whatever. For I don't know if there's like an actual, like, did he have a reputation, or is this just they pick someone random that'd be funny to suggest this for?
I feel like they picked someone. Although I think if I remember the Leonardo DiCaprio movie for Hoover, there might have been implications that he was gay, but I can't recall.
Okay. Oh, so they're being a little homophobic. Okay,
yeah, just a little bit.
Sorry.
I mean, look, there is a big reveal at the end of this movie that in the subsequent 30 movies has become a major problem, but we'll get there.
There is something in the third act that is probably the poorest staging joke of the trilogy. Yeah, that's the first statement.
And this trilogy has OJ in all three, so you know it's bad.
That's really funny. None of the OJ stuff's problematic, though. It's not like, see if he like stabs someone in this movie, then yeah, maybe that'd feel a bit weird in hindsight. But
if you just see him in the background trying to put on gloves, like, oh wait, no, don't do that.
But all he does is do a jigsaw puzzle and eats a cupcake. You know, he's got a big afro for that one scene. That's it. That's it's all harmless.
Yeah. So yeah, he goes and talks to the lab guy police squad just for a little bit, and we just get a joke where he puts some fertilizer in his mouth and then drinks a urine sample because that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, it didn't do a whole lot for me.
Nah.
These jokes. But that sets up what the rest of the plot's going to be for him, is that he's going to go undercover into the prison to try and get close to Rocco and find out what he's doing. So that's what we're doing for the next, like, half hour, or may have been that much, but it's something like that in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that I'm complaining, because again, much like going to a new location, I'm like, okay, this is like a whole new type of movie you can start making fun of tropes in. You can make fun of prison movies. You can do little jokes. When the prison fight breaks out and there's a couple of guys that are sumo wrestlers, or these are solid Naked Gun little gags that just sort of fit into the tropes they're using.
During the initial walkthrough, you see in the prison yard that it starts off with like weightlifting and normal gang stuff like that.
This is a good visual gag. I actually do quite like this.
Yeah, and then it transitions over into like they're on a swing set and there's a whole playhouse, and then at the very end you see someone doing a pole vault over the wall of the prison. So I appreciate those, because that's the sort of visual gag where it's just 4 or 5 different things in rapid succession, and you just keep your eyes peeled and you'll always be rewarded for it.
Yeah, this movie definitely was lacking more of these. Like that's good. There were definitely too few and far between. But yeah, obviously he ends up in the cell with Rocco. They do a gag here where people can hear his like inner monologue because he has to quieten down when the guard walks past. At one point, Rocco says, "Shut up, I'm trying to sleep," which is an okay joke. I mean, I don't feel particularly strongly about it one way or the other.
Yeah, they have a third cellmate who I don't even know if he has a name, but he's a black guy, and they make the joke of saying, yeah, this prison really messes you up. This guy, he used to be the drummer for the Osmonds, implying that he was very, very white beforehand.
So yeah, he basically gains some trust by helping hide the escape plans that Rocco has on a bunch of bits of paper in the cafeteria. And Frank's plan to help him with this is to eat them whilst the prison fight's happening. So it's like an extended gag where at first he's just eating a sheet of paper, but then someone drops like a whole folder of paper and he feels like he needs to eat all of it, so he starts shredding it like spaghetti and then puts like tomato sauce on it. I don't know. There's a whole. He puts in a sandwich at one point.
Puts in a sandwich, yeah. It's most of the humor is all coming from the remaining fight scene because it does do a bunch of cutaway gags to people fighting in different creative ways. But yeah, he just eats the plan. That's basically. Oh, one thing that happens prior to this is the shower sequence where there's this guy who's taken a liking to Frank, and so they do the whole thing of he comes in and drops the soap and tells Frank to pick it up, and then it's revealed that under Frank's towel is a solid steel with padlocks chastity cage, so nobody can get at him, and that's the joke.
I think what made that joke work for me isn't the visual of this like Iron Maiden style looking chastity thing. It was more the way Frank delivers the line "sure thing" when he says, "Pick up that soap for me." He's like, "Pick up that soap for me, lover," and he's like, "Yeah, sure thing." And the way he picks it up, the smile in his face, like, "Here you go, buddy. I'm happy to help you out."
Yeah. Again, that's the kind of momentum that I like when people are just blissfully ignorant to how weird the stuff going around them is. That's the kind of reaction I want. It's always whenever we cut back and someone gives like the seriously, did that just happen kind of look that I'm like, all right, that works every once in a while, but you can't overuse it. There's a sequence much later on in this movie where they absolutely overuse it to the point where it's like back to back 3 times in a row.
Yeah, so their whole plan to escape is to dig a tunnel, and what's amazing is this is not them referencing Shawshank because that came out the same year.
Right.
So
that blew my mind. I checked out the release dates on that. I'm like, surely they must have at least known Shawshank was in production, but like, no, this is entirely separate from that.
I think just digging a tunnel in a prison movie is just like an old school idea anyway.
The digging the tunnel, I'm totally cool with. It's the spreading the dirt, because that was exactly how it was done in Shawshank.
Well, I'm going to take some umbrage with the word exactly, because in Shawshank, he lets out a little bit of dirt out of his trouser leg. And this, Leslie Nielsen's letting out like a mountain of dirt to the point where they're playing baseball and the base is like 5 feet up from the rest of the ground now.
Yeah. It's exactly the same and then turned up to 11 for the sake of the joke. All I'm saying is I'm baffled that came before Shawshank did.
Yeah. Well, I think it never hurts Shawshank though if you've seen this, because it's like the plan is still perfectly reasonable. It's not a silly thing that they're doing to dispose of the dirt in Shawshank. This movie's just taking it to the absurd level for the joke. So,
yeah.
Because sometimes Because sometimes when they make fun of a trope, they're making fun of it because it's a bad thing. Because hey, movies always do this, and it's silly that they do it. But that part of this isn't silly inherently. It's just
No, yeah. Any trope can be played well and seriously and straight, even if it's been overdone to death. It's all about the context.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, they're doing this whole thing. My favorite gag though about the whole digging is the fact that the tunnel they're digging has like all the wooden like supports. Like you know when you're actually digging a tunnel and they put up all the beams to keep all the like just to stop it from caving in. They've got that in their little tunnel. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is up to code somehow, and I don't know how you did that, but fair enough.
Yeah. I think my favorite bit is when we at one point have a guard go by and say like, oh, we've got rumors that someone's going to try to escape, so we're going to be tossing cells later. And they're like, all right, we got to go tonight. We got to go now. And they say, well, we've dug 47 yards and we figure we only have a little bit more. So just another 47 to do overnight. And I'm like, all right, that's a little clever for me if I'm saying they're only halfway done, but then they got to do the rest immediately.
I appreciate them also like, when they stick their heads out of the ground. They're coming out of like an empty plot during a funeral. Like they're coming out of where the coffin's going. I also actually did quite like the joke where they come out of like a manhole and there's a bunch. It's like a basketball court, but they say it's a Los Angeles high school and all of the students pull out machine guns. And I was like, okay, that's actually kind of a funny gag. It's the same later on when they do like a shot of the city and they say, hey, tonight in Los Angeles it's the 66th annual Academy Awards, and like half the city's on fire like it's Demolition Man. I thought that was a funny visual gag.
LA was a problem area for quite some time in the 90s.
Apparently so. Things were rough, but yeah, so there's stuff here where they're on the run. They meet his mother, who we saw earlier with the pap smear scene, but she's like the very kind of like, I don't know, no nonsense, doesn't trust Frank.
What's the name of the mother from the Goonies?
Oh, I mean the name. I can't remember the name.
It was like Mama something or another.
Oh, Finelli.
Fratelli.
There you go. Something like that, yeah.
She gave me a lot of Mama Fratelli vibes. That was what I was picking up from her.
Yeah, that might even be an intentional thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe.
Hard to tell. But they go back to their cabin in the woods, which is the address that Anna Nicole Smith lives at, and they interact with her. And there's a whole bit here where they, because Anna Nicole Smith thinks, I think I've seen you before, they all pull out their guns and point it at Frank and say, are you a cop? And he's like, I'm no cop. And they're like, that's good enough for me. And they all just put their guns away.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I was also waiting for the rule of threes. They do it in twos, strangely enough here, is the mom has a new gun and she's just been itching to use it. And like anytime there's even a little perceived slight, she pulls the gun out. And they do it twice in this scene, but then never resolve that third time.
Maybe a deleted scene, perhaps, or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jane's been getting upset about Frank. She has an incident where some guy tries to hit on her aggressively, shall we say, and she ends up tasing him and putting clothesline pegs on his nipples, and it makes him stumble into the road and get hit by a truck. Yeah, sure.
I mean, the joke itself was whatever, but I love how the friend who has been nothing but supportive and also is, totally against men, she comes out and she's like, you just killed that guy. That's fantastic. We got to kill as many people as possible. All the men must die. And Jane's just like, I think I'm going to call Frank. I think that's the better option here. But you do whatever it is you're going to do, man.
She finds the napkin with the address on it and says, it was another woman. Frank was telling the truth. I have to go here now.
Thank God. He was just cheating on me.
So she ends up at the house where they're all at, and Frank has to think on his feet quickly and say, hey, you're not supposed to know me. And they and they're going to kill her, and he's like, oh no, we could use a hostage. It's good to have a hostage when the bullets start flying. So he convinces them to let her stay alive. So now Jane's wrapped up in the whole undercover plot, which, to be fair, it doesn't last that much longer because they're basically going straight to the Oscars like right after this.
Yeah, the only intermediate scene is that we see what the trigger's going to be, and we see that they have set up this ultra powerful, high intensity bomb that is set to go off whenever. I don't know if they explicitly show it as coming out of an envelope, but it's whenever this is like revealed to the open air or whatever, it explodes. And I swear to God, this is a reference here, but I don't know why. When the bomb goes off, it causes all their hair to blow back, and you see them all have like dirt and tan on them. And then for some reason, Rocco just starts laughing and reacting as, I think, Butthead from Beavis and Butthead. He just goes like, nice. And I'm like, what is this? Why are we referencing Butthead from Beavis and Butthead?
I didn't even get that reference, but...
I mean, maybe it wasn't intentional, but it was spot on.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I really don't.
All right.
But it's time for the Oscars. They all go off, and so yeah, they're going to put the explosive in one of the envelopes for the awards. So the idea is that they don't know which one it's going to be for the rest of the characters, but when someone announces the winner, they'll pull it out and it'll bada boom. So very quickly it becomes kind of like in a similar way to the first movie where it was about trying to find which baseball player is going to be the assassin. This becomes let's try and stall, and Jane she's looking through the envelopes, and there's a whole bit here where they have to get in, they have to like knock out Weird Al Yankovic and like steal his clothes and pretend that they're actors to get in, but whatever.
I like the implication because they say it's Weird Al Yankovic and Vanna White who arrived together, and that's what Frank and Jane end up posing as. I like the implication that Jane looks close enough to Vanna White, she passes, but then nobody actually gives a crap what Weird Al looks like because there's no way Frank looks the damn thing like, because the guy checking is just like, Weird Al, yeah, all right, go on in.
Yeah, actually, probably my favorite gag or running thing throughout this section of the movie, which is because she's looking through the envelopes and Frank keeps ending up on stage, everyone thinking that he's Phil Donahue, and he's like stalling and doing stupid stuff and whatnot. I did kind of like the control room guy just getting more and more frustrated, because it gets to the point where he's like, oh no, it's Phil Donahue's back, and there's a moment where he eventually says, hey, can we make a note not to ask Phil Donahue to come back next year? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of like the way this has progressed over the course of the movie, or over the course of this act.
There's at the beginning he asks for like an aspirin, and he dumps out like a bunch of pills, but still just aspirin. And then you see him getting presented more and more heavy, like painkillers as the series progresses.
Because
it's a fine sequence, yeah.
Yeah, because Frank keeps messing up. He like reads like both parts of the auto cue, which makes it all look kind of silly. He keeps yanking the envelope out of I think it's Raquel Welch, her hand. So that happens, but then he ends up back on stage when the dancing's happening because like he's being chased. So he's messing up the dance routine, and everyone's kind of reacting to that. And then eventually he slides out onto the stage and vomits into the tuba when James Earl Jones is on stage, for reasons which we'll get to in a second.
So the one bit that we kind of skipped over there is how Jane got out of everything. So they were planning on keeping her in the trunk while the bomb was being placed, and then Frank was keeping eyes on her, and then they just turned the tables and trapped the mom in the car. So once Rocco comes back out of the building to make their escape, once the bomb has been placed, he realizes what happened, and then pretty shortly after this point, the mom manages to get the drop on Jane and actually takes her as a hostage. So even if they find the bomb at this point, which ends up being in the Best Picture envelope, which is the one that James Earl Jones and them have, they still need to be able to get Jane to safety.
Yeah, it's like, and obviously we already mentioned at the start of the review about all the jokes of all the fake movies that are nominated for things and whatnot. There's like a Mother Teresa musical at one point you see a clip of as well.
I'm surprised they went in as hard on that as they did. I was expecting it to be like a throwaway title, but they showed a full musical number from that.
I guess another gag that's worth mentioning here is when Rocco's trying to plant the bomb in the first place, Tanya has to distract the guy who's guarding the table with all the envelopes. And the joke is that no matter how sexy she tries to act in front of him, this guy's not budging. He's not leaving his post. He's laser focused. He's not. And what finally gets him distracted, the thing that does it, is that she starts playing with bubble wrap and popping the bubbles. And this makes him come forward and like shoo her away. And then he starts popping bubbles, and that's what keeps him distracted. And I'm like, okay, that's a little amusing.
On paper, I like the joke, but I feel like it just took too long. Like, it feels like that, because we're intercutting that sequence amongst other things, it feels like it took a good 2-3 minutes to get to the punchline on that bit. And it just by that point, I'm like, all right, yeah, he likes the bubble wrap. Can we please move on? The only part I really liked out of it is that as we keep cutting backstage, we keep seeing more and more people are getting engrossed by this bubble wrap.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, maybe the intercutting before we get to the punchline maybe dragged it out a bit too much, but yeah. So let's talk about the problematic jokes, shall we?
Yeah. So he gets the envelope, and by this point, Police Squad is back at the place now. Actually, I'm not sure if he gets the envelope beforehand, but Police Squad's definitely back at the academy. But he gets dragged backstage by Anna Nicole Smith, who has the answers, and he wants to interrogate her as to where is Jane.
And I can't even remember why she starts taking off her clothes, but she does, and
she's just trying to seduce him, trying to say like, "Oh, don't worry about her. I'm here, and I'm sexy, and I want to make love to you now."
Yeah, and they're in silhouette. We're behind the curtain, kind of thing. So we're just seeing the silhouette. And when she removes her bottom stuff, I mean, it actually looks like the handle of an umbrella. So I actually thought there was going to be a joke where it was like, oh, there's just an umbrella, like behind her, like in the silhouette. But of course, the joke here is that Frank is disgusted and runs away and vomits into a tuba because he's presumably just saw a penis. So yeah, it's a very transphobic, old school joke of like, the woman turned out to be a man. Everyone react in horror. Ace Ventura 1's got the same problem where there's a whole reaction to someone turning out to be the opposite sex. But
yeah, and again, I don't think that there is really a problem with having a visceral reaction of like, oh, I wasn't expecting that to be a man, and then just like, not being attracted or anything like that. But it's the strangely enough, the problem that I have where everything else is at a 5. This one, it feels like he takes the reaction up to an 11. He takes his disgust too far, and that makes it like, I'm not sure if this is really something that's working nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the entire concept of the joke is pretty problematic anyway. So, and I think the thing is, though, is that even without the problematic side of it, it's not even that funny is the problem. Like, it's not even like at the time, I think this would have been a good joke. It's kind of lowbrow, and then it's also problematic on top of it. Yeah. So it's, there's just nothing good to say about it.
Counterpoint, we skip past it. During the introduction of her character in the cabin scene, her reveal as she steps out is one of those shots where it starts at the feet and goes up the legs, but the legs are like ridiculously long to the point where we pass by the knees twice on the way
knees.
Up. Yeah. That's a great visual gag. I love that because that is taking this trope that you've seen in all these movies and turning it on its head. And I thought that really worked well there.
Yeah. This stuff obviously, I mean, this was back when he was first pretending to be Phil Donahue, but like when he's, the whole set for this Oscar stage is that the stairs kind of like move in. So like the stairs are moving in as the celebrities are coming down both sides, but he misses the stairs. So he's kind of hanging on the side of them to start with. And that's kind of the start of his whole pretending to be Phil Donahue. But ultimately, like the best picture is finally coming out and like Frank gets a hold of the envelope. But then of course Rocco shows up with Jane as a hostage and his mom, and says, hey, give me the envelope, blah, blah, blah. There's a joke here before it really gets going that takes out the mum, where the applause sign falls onto the mum's head. And the joke here is that it turns to standing ovation and lights up, so the crowd will stand up and start clapping. And I'm like, okay, that's an okay gag. Like, that's like this idea that like they'll follow the instruction on it no matter what, even though they're in like a weird, life-threatening situation, they'll still do it.
Yeah, I also like the setup. Like James Earl Jones is given the little description. He's like, "Oh, all of the films nominated tonight were massive successes at the box office, except for one notable exception." And then, as Frank pulls it out, he sees that it's a bomb, and he yells out, "It's the bomb!" And then the people from that film that didn't do well at the box office are like, "Yeah, we did it, we won!" And they're like, "No, go back, it's an actual bomb."
Yeah, and this is where the famous gif of everyone face palming comes from, which is Frank keeps making mistakes and negotiating with Rocco, where he says, "Oh, how about I'll hand you the bomb. No, I shouldn't hand you the bomb. But if you kill her, then you kill me. But then you'll still be alive. But if I kill her, then I'll still be alive. And then but what if Jane's still alive, but we're both dead? And this is getting very confusing. How about you take the gun and I'll take I'll give you the bomb and you give me the gun." And then that'll be everything worked out. So they swap. So now the bad guy's got the bomb, and the entire audience are like, "Oh, Frank."
Yeah. Well, I love the moment right before it happens is that Jane's like, Frank, maybe not. And he's like, don't worry. I've got an idea. I've got this handled. And then the trade happens exactly as you would expect it. And like, it was clearly a bad idea from the beginning. I don't know what he was going for.
Yeah, so this all plays out, and then like Rocco takes Jane on one of the set ropes up to like the rafters. They end up there. Frank tries to go up as well, but he gets caught in the rope. So the joke here is that everything's playing out. Frank's spinning in the background like he's one of those circus like acts where
Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil, thank you.
Yep.
Where he's spinning around in the background, and like Jane's like, oh, like, you know, Frank's a real man, and I like, obviously I realized now that he couldn't perform sexually because he wasn't who he was supposed to be. He wasn't a cop. Then she's like announcing this to the world, and everyone's captured.
Yeah.
And the director in the control room's like, and they told me I couldn't do drama, as like all this emotional stuff's pouring out of her on camera.
There was one bit that I felt like was kind of a missed opportunity, where he gets a call from somebody saying like, nah, screw the commercials. We're going to focus on this. We're going to do that. And I feel like they had a missed opportunity for like, okay, fine, we'll put in an ad, but like, it's just going to be the bottom third of the screen. And then we see something completely inappropriate playing there instead of just skipping the commercials as a whole. I felt like there was a joke there they could have cashed in on.
They could have basically done like a whole RoboCop bit where they had like 5 commercials lined up and just gave us a bunch of weird, like, stupid, you know, ads for things with Naked Gun jokes in them.
Or at the very least, do a thing where it's like the ads are automatically queued, like they got to play no matter what, but he keeps on switching back to the live feed. So you get like a few words from the commercial interspersed with words she's saying, and it makes it more comedic of the back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, there's things they could do. I think I'm genuinely enjoying the third act more than the rest of the movie because there's maybe just more scenario stuff that's working, but it's not like there's still misfires and there's still things that aren't quite like this is not as good as the baseball finale to the first film.
We basically skipped over the entirety of the dance number sequence. Like it's all slapstick and it's fine, but it's not anything to write home about.
Yeah, I've got nothing to say about it, frankly. And you can sort of tell they were trying to do a lot of like sort of full circle things here where, okay, we're going to have a big event with a crowd, just like the baseball stadium. We're going to have a bit that makes everyone cry with Jane speaking on camera, which is kind of a callback to Frank talking her down at the end of the first one that made all the baseball players cry. Like, you know, you can sort of see how they're trying to like do some bookending kind of sort of little things. But it never quite, I think, feels like it's paying off in that way.
I don't know if I feel like it's really bookending, because on one hand, yes, it probably could be viewed that way, but for me, it felt a lot more of, okay, the second one wasn't as big of a hit, let's go back to the well. What did we do right the first time? And they're just kind of picking up those same pieces that really worked well and using them again, not for the intention of calling back, but the intention of it worked, so why fix it?
I don't know. I mean, like it could go either way with this one, to be fair. But that is a very tried and true thing. Is that if you do a trilogy on the third one, you go back to kind of a more similar. Like Back to the Future did it, right? Back to the Future takes like the basic structure of the first movie and does it in a new setting and is more reminiscent of it after the second one being very different. A lot of trilogies do that, where the third one is intentionally a lot more like the first one again, but with its own new wrinkles and whatnot. So I think there's enough of a precedent to think that this is an intentional thing they're trying to do. But I mean, if they came out and admitted, oh, we just didn't have any ideas, so we just tried and copied things, I wouldn't necessarily be that shocked by it. But I think it feels like to me that they're trying to do something more similar to what the first one did, and in some ways to its benefit, because I do think one of the things the second movie was lacking was kind of this big third act location for a finale. But at the same time, though, it never measures up to the first movie, and the second one definitely had better jokes by and large. So, you know, it's kind of in this weird place where it's not a complete like travesty, but certainly in hindsight, I'm glad they didn't try and do a fourth, because if the trajectory that the franchise was on kept going, then the fourth one probably would have been thoroughly into this is just actually a bad movie now, and I like. Naked
Gun 4 Quest for Peace.
Because this is close to the mediocre line, right? It's a bit above it, but it's fairly close to it. And there's just enough to still enjoy that you can still, if you like the first movie and you like the second movie, there's enough reasons to still watch this and get enough out of it. It's still only 90 minutes, if that even. So it's an easy watch. It's an easy thing to get through. But there's definitely stuff that, it's just not quite as good. Anyway, the movie wraps up with a couple of things. One is that the bad guy falls off the rafters and pulls the bomb out the envelope, but he kind of bungees all the way back up. So he ends up in the plane that Papschmear's in, flying over the city, and Papschmear's plane blows up with them together. So the bad guys are taken out. That wraps up the threat. And the final scene of the movie is 9 months later, where apparently Frank and Jane have gotten pregnant. And the joke at the very end is that Frank and OJ rush into the delivery room and they see a black baby. So Frank starts chasing OJ, saying, "Nordberg, I'm going to get you." And then, of course, Jane and Ed come out of a different delivery room holding a baby. And the joke is that they've just had a big misunderstanding.
I 100% didn't expect them to have it be a misunderstanding, because I thought, okay, you're ending the trilogy. You could just end it on that note, and like no one's going to second guess it. So the fact that Liam Neeson was cast, I'm like, wow, how are they going to explain that one?
I mean, the bigger issue with Liam Neeson's casting for the reboot is that he was already like 40 when this movie came out.
Yeah, I'm all right with that. I'm sure they'll just be like, it's not even going to be an explanation. It's going to be an acknowledgement and anyway.
Oh yeah, they don't need to. I mean, this naked guy doesn't matter, but it is funny to think about it. They were only supposed to have a kid in 1994, and Liam Neeson's like 65 or whatever he is. It just doesn't make any sense. He should be younger than me.
Just want to throw out there in the credits, obviously I do some funny stuff. I won't go through everything, but two things that stood out to me was they have a section for, I guess, people who were in deleted scenes, and it has the header of people who were cut out of the movie, but it wasn't their fault. Okay. And then at the very end, there is a segment of no animals were harmed in the making of this production, but then they follow it up with, however, several species went extinct due to pre-production. And then they actually give a list of like, the spotted owl was killed for lunch one day. Like they give a list of the different species that were killed off. So I like those things. Be more comedies need to have fun with the credits. I don't care what legal says.
David, what are you rating Naked Gun 33 1/3?
I came into this with an idea, and I'm pretty much still at that point, maybe slightly lower. I'm going to say 6. I think this is okay. As you said, somewhere in the middle of this review, if you like the Naked Gun movies, you can come into this and you're probably going to have an okay time. But I think that it is such a significant step down that if you really like the Naked Gun movies, it's really going to be a disappointment for you to see how far it's actually managed to fall in that period of time. And I made the comparison before with 2, but I think that this is, again, another significant step in the direction of what the Scary Movie franchise ended up being. It's going to slowly move in that sort of, we're making more timely reference humor and stuff like that, and we're not playing so much on what the tropes of the franchise really are. So I'll say just a flat 6.
Part of me wants to joke here and say like 6 1/3, just to be
throw
stupid.
the entire scale onto chaos. The first third.
No, I wouldn't want to go above a 6. That was just for the joke. Yeah, 6 sounds about right. I mean, depending on my mood, I might even go 5.5. Right. I think it probably benefits that I've seen it before and I've felt a disappointment before, because it's almost like it has a chance to exceed my expectations now, because I remember it being kind of shit. So when I watch it, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. Like, there's some things still to like here or there, but it is easily the weakest of the 3. And rewatching these for this show has not changed my mind on that. The first one's great, the second one's still pretty good, just not quite as great as the first. And I think I think the gap between 2 and 3 is a bigger gap than 1 and 2, is how I feel. So I think I will say I think I was kind of just tuning out enough of this movie that I think I'm going to say 5.5 today. But I think it can fluctuate. I think depending on my mood when I see it. But it's the sort of thing though where I think there's been times in the past where I've rewatched 1 and 2, and I just this time I won't bother with 3.
Right.
I'll leave that one longer. Maybe next time I rewatch them, I'll do the third one as well, but not this time. So that probably says everything you need to know about it. If nothing else. So
it took us an hour and 20 minutes. That's fine.
That's all right. Anyway, obviously, does it make the cut or not? I think the way we're discussing this, it's probably not making the cut.
Yeah, I think the argument could be made that it straddles the line into cutting it close, but for me personally, I'm going to say cut from the collection. I think that it's again, okay, but that's not really what makes it here. That's something that, especially when the first one was such a witty success, it's just kind of falling flat in comparison. Yeah,
so, yep. Cut from the collection is how I feel about it. So, I mean, obviously we have the new movie, we have the reboot, we'll see how that is. Tough to know what to expect with it, to be honest. Because the trailer, honestly, that there's some jokes in there that work, and there's some jokes in there that seem like shit, to be honest. So, it just comes down to how many of the jokes are going to be good, how many are going to be bad, and we'll see how it goes. But we're going to be having that review on Tuesday rather than Saturday next week, so that'll be coming pretty quickly after this. On Tuesday for the public release, we'll be doing The Naked Gun, the new film. And then on Saturday next week, for the usual collector's cut slot, we've got like a sort of extra sort of special thing. We're doing the Extra Reels tournament, which is a tournament of all the movies we've done on Extra Reels. What is Extra Reels, you might ask? It is a bonus show that we do on Patreon or YouTube memberships, where we do some of the worst movies ever made. And we just hit 32 episodes, so we've got a 32 movie tournament where we try and crown a king of shit, basically. that's the title of it, the king of the shit. So that's free for everyone. No, that is not a Patreon or YouTube member thing. That will be available for all, so you can get that next Saturday. And then the week after that, I'm mentioning this because this is just us going into kind of our new schedule a little bit, where there'll no longer will there be any gaps in collector's cut between seasons, just like there won't be any gaps in weeks off on the Ace either. We dropped our show The Criterion Cut so that we could do that, and that means that when 70s Thriller, let me say that again, when 70s Thriller season starts, the week after that Extra Reels tournament, from that point on, there'll be no weeks off anymore on Collector's Cut. The only thing that might happen sometimes is we might do the switching of the days, so that Collector's Cut might be on a Tuesday instead of a Saturday, and therefore Ace will be on Saturday instead of Tuesday. That may happen for a new release occasionally, but for the most part, it means an episode every week, regardless. And like I just said there, next season, after the new Naked Gun movie, is going to be 70s Thriller season, which was voted for by patrons, and we have an 8-episode season that I'm excited to get to, because I've only seen 1 out of the 8 movies, so I'm excited to see some new stuff. So
I'm sure I've seen 0 because I am uncultured swine.
I've said that about you many times, yes.
I know, I've internalized it. You've really taken a hit to my self-esteem here.
Good. It's good to have an impact. But that's the show, everyone. And like I said, we had to sort of explain what Extra Reels was. But yeah, you can get access to that and other bonuses, and more importantly, help keep Collector's Cut coming, help keep the Ace coming, our sci-fi movie podcast that both me and David also do. Plus Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast that I do with Tim. Keep all of those coming by supporting us on Patreon or YouTube membership, or even a one-time super thanks is great. Any support is greatly appreciated. So thank you to everyone who already supports us. And if you're considering it, do it.
What are you waiting for? Do it.
Yeah. And if you can, don't feel bad. Support by commenting, liking, sharing videos. Just keep watching, keep listening. All of those things help out a bunch. So thank you for joining us, everyone. That is the show. We will see you next time for the brand new reboot of The Naked Gun. But that is us. So keep watching movies. And if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.